There are some losses that don't just take people from us, they take pieces of who we were becoming. This episode isn't about mourning, it's about remembering what grief tried to bury. My name is Mr. Justin H. Tucker, and today I'm taking you through my own journey of reclaiming my voice, my vision, and my purpose. I want to talk about when I lost my grandfather, when I lost my love for art. When I was younger, I used to draw a lot, and I don't mean just like little doodling, like, no, I used to full on create characters. I loved drawing like animals, sketching from my comics, creating my own mini books, my own worlds. But when my grandfather passed away, the urge to pick up that pencil, it wasn't there. And the pages started to become blank. It didn't have the same drive to it. And I didn't notice it at first. But one day I looked around and I realized I stopped doing it completely. And it's not because I didn't love it anymore. It's because the joy that powered it felt like it was buried with him. And sometimes I've said things like, I wish somebody would have been there for me. And I think when you say stuff like that, and this is just for anyone else out there for your own knowledge and advice, people hear that, but they're not thinking that you realize what they're trying to do. The reality is when someone's hurting, they know what they need. And we can attempt to serve the body. If we're not meeting that need, the pain continues. That's why I've learned over my life. The key is to find and understand it. If you can understand your suffering, then you can solve your pain. And once you can solve your pain, you can move on. The reason why we hold on to things so much is not that we're stuck in trauma or we're obsessed, but it's because we don't understand why. And once you have a why, everything else makes sense. At least that's the piece I've given myself at this point. That's how I've made sense of it for me.
That kind of grief, it's not just about mourning people. It's about mourning identity. When the world shifts beneath you, sometimes you forget you had wings in the first place. So let me ask you, when did you first start to realize you had to reclaim those parts?
You asked me, when did I realize I had to reclaim those parts? It would take me quite some time to honestly really understand that. I probably had to lose quite a few more things in my life. I think if I'm being truly transparent and honest, it would not be until much later into my 30s things start to really make sense. If I had known this when I was younger, it's something I'm constantly on. But I do believe these losses were significant because these people were staples for me. And not to say that I still don't have staples, but sometimes it's like I've posted on this page before, I've talked about taking it off me for a moment, like a guy like Mike Tyson. Look at the impact that Custom Model had in his life. I'm sure there were other people that were important to him too, but nobody impacted him the way that Custom Model did. It's unfortunate, but sometimes certain people just really understand you in a way that no one else does. When you lose those people, you can't replace them. We try, but you can't. And people aren't to be replaced. Voids aren't always necessarily be filled. Sometimes you just have to move on and go around them. I was still young and naive, man. I lost my grandfather. I was 11 years old. There was a lot of life that I did not understand. It had no magnitude of what I was walking into. And that brings me to the next loss that is awfully significant in my life. And that's when I lost my good friend Brian. I was upcoming DJ Casanova. Love DJ. I wanted to DJ since I was a kid. I'd say since I was probably 10 years old. Right before I went to college in Miami, there were these two guys I worked with, Paul and Kenny. They were DJs, and they were kind of in the hip-hop scene. And they, really cool at work. I used to really talk to them. They were going to sell me some DJ equipment, but my mother wouldn't have it. I just want to tell a little personal story about them. They introduced me to MC H.A.N.K. I met him on West Bartlett in Gordon Heights at a house party. I couldn't believe it. I was like the real MC Shan. Shout out to Paul and Kenny. Thank you for that. Back to the real topic though. I got my first DJ equipment with the money I had saved for buying old girlfriend an engagement ring. And that engagement did not work out. Rather than be heartbroken, I did what any smart man should do. I took the money and I invested it in something my heart had always been on, DJing. But to be honest, I think I've been DJing all my life. Growing up as a kid in Queens, I had access to Hot 97. So if you don't understand, before streaming, before the internet, Hot 97 was the source to hip hop. Therefore, by proxy, I was connected to the main source. I would record tapes off the radio. I learned how to hit the record button, put a blank cassette in. When the radio was playing the hip hop music I like, record it, pause for the radio, for the commercials, unpause to keep going. I learned, it got to the point where I could make tapes for other people. So I was making mixtapes at an early age. I've been doing that since about maybe 8 or 9 years old, to be honest. And that I get from my father. My dad used to love to make tapes. I still have the image to this day of him. We're about to go see grandma something in the Bronx, and he is making a tape to play in the car that we about to go and take. And I have that same mindset now when I'm doing a playlist or something. But anyway, DJing, man, I have my own unique feel for music. As someone that's 39 years old, there are a lot of guys that I know definitely love style of music that I like and are into the oldies. I'm a real music head. Like I say that to say, like, I don't just listen to like rapper hip hop. I listen to so much more. I love rock and roll, so many genres. When I listen to music, I think I listen a little bit more deeper. The words matter to me, if you understand what I'm saying. And if you don't, you're just frustrated. Often people were frustrated. And I'm always surrounded by the people that are frustrated. Brian was somebody that got it. It got me. When you're trying to preserve and share your gift, it's so hard because it's like, God gives you something so precious and you want to share it with the world, and the world loves to criticize and tell you to take something unique and make it like everybody else. And what Brian would always do is when all the guys are making fun of me, and Brian was the one friend that would usually come strong and defend me, or give me that wink around the room so that I could just be cool, like, dog, it's all good. I know where you're coming from, so that I feel seen. Because at the end of the day, a man can take the ridicule. He just needs to know that someone acknowledges him. And so that's the relationship that we had. And I was making my rounds and picking up heat, meaning that the DJing was going really, really good for me. I had got to a point where I was starting to do college parties, and I was on a hot streak. I had done a really big party at Towson University with the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi at Towson. They showed me so much love. We had this, I wish we didn't have social media back then, so people weren't coming to parties with their phones. We were coming to parties with our bodies to get moving and have a good old time. And when I tell you, we did, it was legendary. They had me, I DJ'd on a stage. One of the bros had some artists he was working with. They came out, I played their tracks for them. It was amazing. It was just off the hook. It's because I've had moments like that, I don't trip. Like, I've already feel like I'm sitting up here doing one of them behind the music documentaries of an acclaimed career, because I feel that way. It may not be acclaimed enough to you, but it's acclaimed enough for me, because I didn't think I'd ever do that, and I did, and you ain't ever done it either. But off that party, there were bros from George Mason. They were at the party, and they were so mesmerized with what happened. And so they were like, yo, can you do this again on our yard? And I was like, dog, of course. And Brian was there with me. We had an amazing party, and we were celebrating like, yo, dog, you really picking up speed. Because ironically enough, at that time, I was going through a lot of hardships. And I was taking it upon myself that I've always felt like just applying for jobs shouldn't be enough for me. These jobs often don't see the talent and ability that I have. And so I wanted to try to make a way for myself. Life was just going good, partying. I was having little gigs that I was doing around the city. Money's coming in. Everything's going well. We fast forward to November. The day plagues me so much I forget the day. All I know is this how it goes, guys. Go to George Mason. The party was good. Brian was supposed to come with me. At the time, I didn't know. I thought that maybe he just got caught up or something. I was really looking for him to be there for me because this was a big moment for me. If you're a DJ, headlining a homecoming party at a major university, that is like a basketball player championship game. But the championship games, it's nice to see your people there. Brian was one of the friends, and I have a few of them still here too, that are really good at hanging with me in the booth and helping me regulate the crowd. Sometimes I can get in my own head, my own feelings. I'm big on my emotions. I use them. Sometimes I can work against you. Sometimes I want to play something. I don't give a damn if y'all don't want to hear it. I think that's what you need to hear. I'm going to play it anyway. But Brian is one of the few people that could be like, dog, that joint is, you know what I'm saying? But now I just think you might want to play that a little later. And I'm like, you know what, Brian, you right, dog. Let's put what they want to put on. You know what I'm saying? It's for the people. You know what I mean? But you see how that little mental thing of acknowledging me and making me feel seen versus, that's trash, dog. Nobody want to hear that. That song is whack. That's not encouraging. And that's what I'm used to getting berated. Instead of somebody that makes me feel seen, acknowledges me, and then takes me, And so I do the party. Excuse me. I'm doing the party. And one of my friends had called me. He was a little hysterical and worried that something happened to Brian. I just kind of blasted him like, yo, I'm about to do this party. Don't call me on no bullshit like that. You don't know what you're talking about. And I just banged the phone on him because they didn't want to believe anything like that. And I'm never going to forget this because it happened like something out of a movie. At the very end of the party, of the DJ set, like literally as I'm taking the needle off the records, because I use turntables, every man of Omega Psi that was in that building, you saw the phone lights go off like dominoes. And I had never felt so weak, so emotionally out of control, and so hurt. I felt so naked because I was publicly out in front of everybody. I was at a homecoming party, and I just learned that I lost one of my best friends. Thinking about it now, what really makes it amplified is Brian was the friend whenever I was emotionally devastated that showed up for me. I remember a girl played me at a party and I was kind of just like isolated. Brian came with a bunch of bros. They checked the girl and his friends and came and got me. Ironically enough, I had to stand on my emotions and vulnerability alone, but I wasn't alone because I was surrounded by my brothers. And there was never a more proud moment that I have of being a man of Omega Psi Phi that I do that day. Because I don't think I've ever let myself be seen with tears like I'm doing right now. I did when I lost my friend Brian. And that's why I tell people all the time, it's like, you never know. I know your situation, but I know what devastation feels like. I don't think I've ever been the same.
You weren't just mourning a friend. You were mourning the part of yourself that only existed when he was around. That's the tragedy of grief. It dims the lights in rooms you forgot you even lived in. What do you think Braint would say to you today, seeing you pick it all back up again?
I think if Brian was here right now, he'd be really proud of me. You would say you finally look like you got it. You finally look like you really tapped into your gifts. I lost Brian at 25. I'll be 40 in October. So that's 15 years. I'm sorry, I was 26. My math is wrong. So that's 14 years. I think there are a lot of highs and lows that I had to work through. All in all, I know he'd be proud of me. To best answer your question. To best answer your question. And that kind of gets to the topic for this podcast. On the article I wrote, I talked about the three men that impacted me the most. And I'm going to say now, my final grandfather I lost this year in February. I laid him to rest on Valentine's Day. At first, I felt such a numbness. There was a lot of anger inside me that I felt. I wanted to see him one more time, and I was denied that. And anger was more with myself because I allowed things to stop me from seizing the moment. coming to peace and understanding that and thinking back on the time we had empowers me to do what I'm doing now. It's why I believe so much in Just Inspired. I am not going to rest until this is moving 150%. This is all I want to do for the rest of my life. And I'm confident and willing to do whatever it takes to put myself in position so that I can at the best of my ability. Time is so fleeting. So we really got to do a better job of being mindful with our time, because every moment you waste, you don't get back. And when you look back, the only thing that takes the pain away is knowing that you spent that time wisely. That's where those memories come from. When I think about my first grandfather passing, I never got to say goodbye on my own terms. And I realized over the years that really hurt me. But I was a child, and that was not in my control. That's for me to take ownership and realize that I loved him and I was with him the best I could during that time. And there's no reason for me to hold any ill will about anything that occurred, because it was not anything that I could do in life. You don't really have as much control as you think. And that's what people got to learn to let go of. Manage what you can. And what you can manage, you manage to the best of your ability. And that's why I said, you know what? I'll put my all into this. Looking back through my life, there are a lot of things that I've tried to do, and maybe I haven't always given it my all, but I saw success. Maybe that was the curse and the victory for me, being able to win too easily. So now I found something that I'm willing to go as hard as it takes, because I know that what I'm doing can work. It can help so many. And so that's why I'm dedicated to it, and I won't stop. Criticism doesn't bother me, because all you're telling me is how I can make it better. And if someone that's going to constantly work, all I can do is accept feedback.
What kind of man was your grandfather, and what did you admire most about him?
You know, when I think about my grandfather, my middle name, Henry, I'm actually named after my grandfather. So there's a lot of honor in that, and knowing that, keep his legacy alive that way. And I also think about the kind of man he is. He had a real stoic personality, strong, silent, but when he spoke volumes. Kind of man that walks in the room, every man looks and acknowledges him, and it goes back to what they're doing. That silent power, it's what I want for myself. But he was a leader too. He was wise. He was a man of his word. He was also, like myself, a man that took pride in his appearance whenever he went places. He took pride in his physical care too. My grandfather was a strong man. He was walking and doing what he had to do well into his late years until he couldn't anymore. And so I think of him, I think of a titan.
When he passed in February, what shifted in you?
I found out it was a Saturday. I was making an appearance, speaking at Baltimore County's teachers, some kind of teachers agency. I forget the name right now. I was with one of my mentees, and I was going to present on Just Inspired Mentoring. I had left my phone, so when I came home, my phone was blowing up with text messages, and I found out that my grandfather had passed. That's the way to find stuff out. But I guess everybody had tried to call other numbers and so forth. So they had to tell me. That's how I found it out. I'm always kind of the one that's always out alone. I feel like many of you can relate to that. I think that's part of being the prodigal strong one. You're always just out there on your own. And so with being out there on your own, just having to deal with my emotions on my own and not looking for pity, but realizing like nobody even knows. And when nobody knows, you realize insignificant people really think about people's feelings in the world. But what was special was that I had just started working as a professor, adjunct professor of communications, because, previously I had lost my job due to being unfairly treated and my freedom being jeopardized by cruel practices in Baltimore City. I had a loving class. Those students, shout out to Perry Hall High School, those kids were really loving and kind to me. Some of them had experienced loss too. I like to think that I'm really empathetic and kind to people where they experience loss. So when I had experienced loss, they were willing to be there for me and they gave me an embrace. When you're a single man, if you ain't chasing the chicks, nobody's really coming to check on you. And so there was a kind of an anger, a frustration. I make my life living, pouring into and helping others. And sometimes it just feels like when I'm going through the worst of things, there's never anybody pouring into me. Yet I still find a way and move forward. I don't even feel comfortable venting my true feelings and emotions around close people to me, just because I don't think they'll ever be able to see my feelings or see how I feel. They're just going to hear their own my attempts at calling them inadequate, which I'm not, but it just goes to show you how much people only think of themselves and don't see anyone else. The realization of just how real life is, my problems aren't going away. Nobody's doing anything. I have to do it. I have to figure it out. You only get a couple of days off work to deal with losing somebody that has been a cornerstone of your life. That was the greatest significance for me. Being around all that family and love for 48 hours and then just, that's it. I kind of get why a lot of men become so cold-hearted. It's not that we're cold-hearted, it's just the world takes our hearts from us and doesn't leave you with much. I had some really rough nights, said some pretty tough things, but I feel like life has shown me signs that the best is yet to come and that I should keep fighting. And so I do. That's the reborn. That's the purpose, making yourself clear.
Was there a moment you felt like, I can't keep living like this, and knew something had to change?
For me, it was when I came home from New York. I had really appreciated my time with my family, but when I was home and I was just thinking 2 or 3 days and back to life, I think that was the moment where I was like, you know what? I can't keep doing this. I want more. I want a better situation. I don't want to just keep doing everything just to keep up. I don't want to live like that. I'd rather not live. I want the life to have a meaning. I don't just want to just do this stuff just because we have to. And I was determined to figure out a way to make it make sense. You know, my grandfather said, just be good at that. Don't make it complicated. Find one thing. I believe that's what mentoring is for me. That was the one thing. And I truly love doing it. If I could figure out a way to create an opportunity for me where that's all I can do for the rest of my life, that would be a life worth living. I'd rather die in pursuit of that than doing anything else. Having a loss that dramatic and just having to be off for 2 days to go back was pretty rough. And I even had to let my students know, like, this feels weird. Like, it doesn't feel right, but policies, right? So, to answer your question, I think loss, for me at least, helps me really get a better feel for time.
You've said, I'm going to live my purpose or die in pursuit. Where do you feel him pushing you forward in that mission?
So remember, purpose is just living for your cause. That's what that means to me. So that means that I'm trying to live my cause. And I believe I'm doing that at an amazing rate right now. The podcast, if you see me outside, you need help, support, I'm going to support you. That's my cause. That's my purpose. That's why it's just Inspire Mentoring. I want to inspire other people to do the same thing. Mentor. You don't have to necessarily mentor with me, but mentor somehow. So everything that I do is going to always speak to that. You see me out, you like the suit, you like the lapel pin. Oh, mentoring. Think about that, right? Just Inspire Mentoring, always. And when I say I'm going to either do this or die in pursuit of it, that means if I'm not mentoring at the ability I want to, if I don't have the organization that allows me to do what I need to do, I'm going to be constantly doing all I can to gain that. And if I don't live to see it, then I will die trying. That's what that means. And I think that's honorable. That's no different than a soldier or a general dying on the battlefield. Everybody doesn't get to be an old general recalling old battle stories. Some of them have to die in glory. That's just the nature of the game, right? I hope to be here for a long time, and I do believe I will, because I believe I'm going to be successful. I think when you have a noble cause, things swing your way. If you keep pushing in one direction, at some point, the pendulum has to swing the other. It's just a matter of, can you last long enough for that moment to finally break? And I also know that the longer you wait for that pendulum to switch, that harder it's going to swing. And harder means a bigger hit. So I am wagering my bets on when that pendulum hits for me, it's going to hit right. Because I'm doing something noble. And so, how do I see him pushing me forward in this mission? I think some of the things that he stood for, all I want to do is honor his name and remember him. And so by keeping that alive, I keep him alive. And so that's how he pushes me forward. When I think about the reading club, getting people to read, it's because I saw my grandfather read so much. That's why I redid the blog. I bet if he was alive right now, I'd tell him about it. He wasn't on a computer, so he wouldn't have engaged with it like that. But if I would have printed those articles out in a little book or something, he would have read it. This was heavy. I didn't expect this to be so heavy. So here's what I'm reclaiming. I'm picking up the pen again. I've been drawing, doing my art. I'm spitting again because the world needs rhythm. It needs good sounds. I'm teaching, mentoring, and building because young men out there are one conversation away from changing their lives. And I'm still healing, still growing, and still choosing to rise. To anyone listening who's lost someone, don't just mourn what you lost. Mourn what it cost you. And then go back and get it. Reclaim the gifts grief tried to steal, because the best tribute we can offer those we've lost is to live fully while we're still here.
Thank you for joining us. This is Just Inspire. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if today's message moved you, share it with someone who needs it. We're not just building a show, we're building a community.
Until next time, be wise, be true.